What decks do you have to beat in Modern? What do you have to be prepared for? Because right now, the champions of Modern are taking shape and new players to take on the challenge are rising up. Everyone, this is Nikachu, Merfolk Master, and April has been a very interesting month for Modern because, of course, we've got a lot of the old decks that have been very, very well positioned, very strong. We've seen Heliod Company, Prowess, Tron, we've seen Jun Shadow, and now we're seeing the evolution of the Modern metagame. New players taking rise and actually competing with those archetypes and pushing a lot of other stuff down. So let's look at the top 10 decks that you have to be prepared for in Modern. Starting off, number 10, Burn. Now, Burn trending downward big time for a few reasons. I mean, one of them is that if you're a Burn player, you might be wanting to experiment with that Boros Prowess deck with Clever Lumimancer. But another reason is that it's actually just getting slaughtered by some certain key decks. First one being Eldrazi Tron making a huge comeback in 2021. The police of Modern with Chalice of the Void making sure that it keeps decks that are at 1 to 2 CMC in their place. But in addition to that, I mean, Heliod Company has main deck Auriok Champion. That's not a great matchup. And then finally, some of these Niv to Light decks that are main decking like Kaya's Guile and Lightning Helix. Those are a beating, not to mention you can see the same thing from Esper Control playing the Kaya's Guile. So with a lot more life gain in the format, people are still playing Burn, but it's trending downwards and it might just completely fall off the map. Moving on to number 9, Amulet. Now, I think there's really not that much to say. I mean, it's a powerful deck, all right? You can play with or without Karn the Great Creator. You've got Dryad of the Elysian Grove. I mean, I don't really have anything to add than usual. It's got good matchups in the metagame. It's got some awkward matchups in the metagame. It's a big, powerful player. If you're up against just a regular Tron deck, you can overpower them with your Primeval Titan. So, I mean, even against the other big mana decks, this is the big mana deck that beats them. So, Amulet Titan, it's around. No one's going to be dropping this deck anytime soon. Turn 3 Titan consistently, and Dryad of the Elysian Grove into Valakuts. It's just a something. It's a stock deck in the metagame. Solid choice if you ever want to get into Modern. Moving on to number 8, Dredge. Now, Dredge, it's in an awkward spot. It's a really powerful deck. Got a new addition with Thrilling Discovery from Strixhaven, so it got an upgrade. This is like copies 5 to 8 of Cathartic Reunion. So it is, and that, in my opinion, is the card that I am most scared of when I'm up against Dredge. They're discard 2 cards, draw 3. Oh my god, I feel like that's busted. So the deal is, it's more consistent, more to get their starts. But when you're winning a few tournaments, when you make some top 8s with Dredge, when you get on the map, you get slapped around, you know? People notice you. They start putting that graveyard hate in their sideboard. So right now, it's a pretty high variance situation if you want to play Dredge or not. I think it's definitely something you got to be prepared for. It has enough results out there, and there's going to be enough people that are like, well, look, Dredge has been doing so well, you know, lately. I'm going to pick up Dredge. Looks like a pretty good, well-positioned deck. But at the same time, you're probably going to get your head kicked in by the graveyard hate. You might have to be dodging some graveyard hate if you're going to be picking up Dredge. So it's a weird spot. In any given tournament, you might be playing against a ton of Dredge, or you might be playing against nothing because other people are being prepared for it. Just want to put on the radar here. Dredge got an upgrade. Dredge does have some results, and you might want to be prepared for it. If you're a Dredge player yourself, you might just jam Dredge over and over again, just hoping that's just going to be the weekend. People put the graveyard hate, you know, back into the trade binder. All right, moving on to number 7. Very interesting archetype right now. We're talking the Bring to Light 5-color decks. Now, there are a few variations of these Bring to Light decks. There is ones with Niv Mizzet, there's ones with Scape Shift, and the ones with Niv Mizzet have, like, you know, a great toolbox package of spells in the main deck. But the point is that this is unexplored territory. And the variations of these decks are really wide. They're playing with Omnath, they're playing with Dryad of the Elysian Grove. I mean, take the Niv Mizzet deck. I mean, they play with Wrenn and 6, they play with Fairy Time Raveler, and when they hit that Niv Mizzet or Bring to Light into a Niv Mizzet, I mean, that is just huge value. Whereas the Scapeshift decks, they're playing with like Dryad of the Elysian Grove and Valakut the Molten Pinnacle, and they're taking another direction, and they're doing well. They're doing great. Super high value. I mean, that Niv Mizzet deck by itself, I mean, the Lightning Helixes and the Kai's Guiles puts Burn in its place. Good value versus Prowess. Also good value versus the Shadow decks. And what's exciting about this deck is because of the variations, I don't think we've found the perfect build yet. There's a lot of room for improvement. So anyway, I don't know exactly where it's going to be the final stage of these types of Bring to Light archetypes, but I'm just letting everyone know, hey, Bring to Light is a type of 5-color Bring to Light. You better be prepared for that in the modern metagame and all its variations. Moving on to number 6, and it took some time for people to accept this as the new standard for modern Esper Control. You cannot play Path to Exile in this metagame. You will completely tempo yourself out. Against Prowess, against Shadow, against any Burn deck, against any other Prowess deck, it is unacceptable. You have to be playing Fatal Push against all those small creatures, and especially with Strixhaven just coming out, and the Boros Prowess decks. You cannot tempo yourself out like that. So Fatal Push is the de facto best removal spell in the format at the moment. I mean, even in the face of Lurrus as a companion, to bring the creatures back, you have to be playing Fatal Push so you don't tempo yourself out. And you still have access to like extra charms in the form of Esper Charm to draw extra cards. Very good in grindy matchups. And you know what? Making your opponent discard 2 cards. If you want to be an aggressive Tron or Amulet deck, hey, they can Esper Charm you at upkeep. Boom! You need every card. So anyway, Esper Control, it's a weird archetype. It was sort of like the stupid control deck for forever. Like no one wanted to touch that thing. Not even the Jeskai control players. But now it is enough people have enough confidence in it, especially since TSP Yendrick has put up so many results that now enough independent people have been able to replicate it, showing that Esper Control is the blue-white X control deck that is competitive in Modern. Moving on, we got Tron. Just classic Tron. Can't say it's well positioned, can't say it's poorly positioned. It is just a deck that a lot of people own. I can't really say that it's well positioned, but it's a very popular deck, big mana deck. Does have a decent chunk of good matchups right now. You know, if you're up against Eldrazi Tron, I don't think it minds the Heliod Company matchup too much. I mean, okay, gain infinite life. I don't care. I got Karn the Great Creator. Just reset the game. Reset the game and get back to business. So a turn 3 Tron is still going to be very powerful, but it's just such a common... It's just a deck that so many people online own that I think you do still need to be prepared for it. So I'm putting Tron at number 5 in the metagame. Number 4, Eldrazi Tron. Now, I don't know what took so damn long for this deck to come back. Maybe people lost confidence in this archetype many months ago, maybe half a year ago. But when you see things like Prowess, when you see things like Death Shadow and Burn just taking over the metagame, taking up all the top slots, you're playing against it like 3 to 4 out of 5 times in the leagues, you gotta know that a Chalice of the Void deck is going to fill that void. We need a police against all that nonsense, and Eldrazi Tron is that police. And I've said it many times before, and I'm going to say it again. Eldrazi Tron is just a very solid deck to buy into, and it's back. So Chalice of the Void backed up by very strong, beefy creatures like Thought-Knot Seer, disrupting the hands of many other archetypes. So it's got a good prison plan while being proactive at the same time. I think it's got a lot of good matchups. I think it had good matchups for a very long time. So Eldrazi Tron is quite a bit back and in good form. Eldrazi Tron giving at number 4 on this list. Number 3, if you don't bring the answers, it's going to beat you. Jund Death Shadow. Jund Death Shadow is just this is basically the Sol version of the Death Shadow deck. So, you know, forget Grixis Death Shadow, forget 4-color, 5-color Death Shadow. Jund Shadow is the way to go. Probably the most powerful proactive deck out there. Like in terms of like beefy creatures, you can 1-for-1 their creatures, but like they'll just get Lurrus and then bring them back, and they have so many big creatures. Like individually, everything is super powerful. The Tarmogoyfs, the Death Shadows, the Scourge of the Skyclaves. Like you really have to kill everything because if you leave one on the battlefield, I mean it's not like Prowess where if there's one Soulscar Mage left, maybe you can deal with it. If there's one Tarmogoyf left and it's a 6/7, if there's one Scourge of the Skyclaves, it's an 8/8. You know, it's gonna kill you. It's gonna do you in. So it's gonna exhaust all your removal. And there's nothing that you can use to block it. These creatures are enormous. And they've got everything. They've got the best removal with Fatal Push and Lightning Bolt and the interaction with Inquisition of Kozilek and Thoughtseize. And they're not as scared as other archetypes are against, like the hate cards like Auriok Champion, no big deal to them, all right? They're adapting with the Hex Drinker. They've got the Tarmogoyf already. I mean, and anything like Chalice of the Void, they just Kolaghan's Command the damn thing away. Jund Shadow is just like one of the best decks to beat in Modern. Be prepared. Going on to number 2, Blue-Red Prowess. Just probably the fastest deck in Modern. Not only that, it's still really good against a lot of the hate cards that you would expect to bring in against this archetype. We're talking like Chalice of the Void sometimes doesn't even work because they still have a lot of stuff that they can play at 2 mana, at 5 mana, so they can play Sprite Dragon and just throw away their 1 mana spells, make a giant Sprite Dragon, kill you. They can play Stormwing Entity, they can play Manamorphose, they can dig with Stormwing Entity to find that Abrade. And then if you've got Auriok Champion out, okay, fine, big deal. They can just either go wide or still fly in the air with even larger creatures. I mean, the deck has it all. It is super prowess, and it appears that it has not been displaced by Boros Prowess. You could also include that in this list. Like, that is another prowess deck to be prepared for, but that deck has not had as much real success, very solid success, as the Blue-Red Prowess deck. Mind you, Boros Prowess might be missing one more creature. That Leonin Lightscribe might not be enough. Soulscar Mage has been in this format for forever, but only recently it saw a really good play thanks to the Prowess and Blue-Red Prowess deck. So maybe Boros Prowess just missing one more piece to go over the top, but we know Blue-Red Prowess has all the pieces, and you absolutely need to be prepared for this deck, or you could play it yourself. Okay, number 1, the best deck in Modern, hands down. And also now, not only the best deck in Modern, but is easily the deck that you have to beat in Modern. We're talking Heliod Company. Enough time has passed. A lot of people are convinced this is just the best deck, and now people are actually playing it. Not only is it performing very well, it is now seeing play in very high numbers. And why not? Because it is a multiple 2-card combos. And I'll tell you why it's so powerful. Because the front end of the combo, Heliod Suncrowned, is indestructible. You can't do anything about it. So once you have Heliod on the battlefield, very few things can touch this creature. You can't even Path to Exile this thing, because if it's not a creature, then it's not targetable. So you can interact with it with your removal spells. So now the Heliod player can jam Spike Feeder. You've got an answer? Okay, let's say you do. Okay, another Spike Feeder. Oh, you have an answer? Okay, Walking Ballista. At some point, one of these things are going to stick, and it's going to destroy you. And then the game is over. Most combo decks aren't like that. There's some cost to the combo, some front end or the back end. And in this one, you just have to get Heliod out, and then you're going to get crushed. Not to mention, it gets to play. Get this. It gets to play with 4 main deck Auriok Champion. In the main deck! Death Shadow's not prepared for that in the main. The Blue-Red Blitz deck is not prepared for that in the main. I mean, they can bring in answers, but are you serious? And it has synergy with the rest of the deck. It seriously has synergy with the rest of the deck because you gain life. Heliod's going to put counters on stuff. I mean, that deck can just aggro you out in another way. So I mean, they don't even need to combo off in every single game. So anyway, the deck is deadly. I mean, they can Coco into the combo itself. I would say a lot of people have been asking me, is it safe to buy into the Heliod deck? And I would say no. This is exactly the type of archetype that gets a banning. And when it does get a banning, you're just left with a pile of cards. You don't know what wizards will ban from this deck. Maybe they ban the combo entirely with Heliod. Maybe they just ban one half of the combo, like Walking Ballista, leave the Spike Feeder Infinite Life combo. At least the Infinite Life combo you can interact with in some way. Tron can reset the game. You can mill your opponent out. You could get infinite damage yourself. But when Walking Ballista hits the battlefield, I mean, it's just when they can enable the combo, giving it lifelink, it's GG. But who knows what's going to happen? And not only is it like the best deck, a lot of people are bringing in very large numbers. But if you're afraid of something getting banned from this archetype, I'd like to introduce you to a service called Mana Traders. This is a place where you can rent cards online. So if you want to play the latest, most dangerous combo deck without the fear of getting your cards banned, Wizards doesn't F you, they F Mana Traders. And you can support the channel by using my Mana Traders link in the description below, or you can save 15% off your first 2 months using my coupon code Nikachu. Just a reminder, I've got deck lists to all archetypes mentioned in the description below. What will your weapon of choice be in today's modern metagame? And for all of you that decide to stay to the very end, I'm going to let you in a little secret. Outside of, I think, Prowess and Shadow, I think Ponza is very well positioned to destroy everything.